I'm Karen Henderson with Baton Rouge Public Radio, WRKF, backstage at the Bluesfest in downtown Baton Rouge, the old state capitol, the Senate chambers. I'm sitting with one of the artists who will be performing tonight, Curtis Harding. Now, Curtis, I know you released your solo debut a few years ago, Soul Power. It's gotten some great reviews, lots of love for your classic soul music stylings where you fuse a little R&B, you add a little freshness to it. How would you describe, they're saying it's, hearkening back to the 60s and 70s. How do you describe this album?
I necessarily wouldn't describe it, but for the sake of everybody else, I call it slopping soul.
Sloppin' Soul.
Yeah,
Why Sloppin' Soul?
it's because I feel like it's just a mixture. It's a melting pot of just sounds, and it's runny. Slop is runny. It can be funky, be smooth. And it's just gritty, and soul is the foundation. So,
Yeah.
so I call it slopping soul.
A lot of the reviews
Dirty.
when I read dirty, a lot of the reviewers are saying that they're pointing out the soul, they're pointing out the rhythm and blues, but I hear rock in some of these.
Yeah.
I hear a little bit of rock. I hear a little bit of everything actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, rock is derivative of the blues and stuff too, so it's all over the place. I got a lot of friends that are in bands, and so we influence each other. So some of that probably seep through there too.
Now this is your first solo album, but you've been in the music business for a long time. You've been writing, you've been singing. I know you were backup singer for CeeLo. What made you decide to step out of the background and into the front, do your own thing?
I mean, that's always been the plan. I just really didn't know at the time how I wanted to go about it and exactly what I wanted to do. It took just getting older and just kind of just going back to my roots to kind of realize that this is what I've always supposedly been doing. So that's pretty much it.
Now you say getting back to your roots. Where did music fit into your life growing up?
My mom's a gospel singer. She's from Philadelphia, Mississippi, away in Mobile, Alabama. So I spent some time as a kid in the Deep South, just going to church with her and singing in choirs and stuff and playing drums. That was my first instrument. Yeah, that's it, gospel. Listening to the Consolers, Mahalia Jackson, Soul Stirrers, stuff like that.
Now, did you get any secular music in your upbringing, or was it all gospel?
Well, of course I did when I would go to Memphis, where my dad is from Henderson, Tennessee. But we would go to Memphis to my uncle's house, and he would always have like some John Lee Hooker or something playing, and he was friends with B.B. King, so they called him Bubba. He would be around, so that was always in there. And then Michigan, you got Motown. I was born in Saginaw, so that music was always in the air and always around, always prevalent. And I remember my mother, she wouldn't listen to secular music anymore, but she would always play like Al Green's gospel records.
Al
so
Green.
So that was a huge influence on me just growing up.
So when did it, is there a moment, a defining moment for you where you said, this is what I'm going to do with my life?
Yeah, when I started getting paid for it.
Okay, you got to tell us, when did you, what
I was
was the
singing.
first
I was
paycheck?
singing. I got a placement. I was writing with CeeLo at the time for his first solo album.
Now, how did that, wait, how did you, okay, your mom's a gospel singer, you're traveling with her. Now, how
This
did
is
you
like
end up
years
with
later. We ended up in Atlanta because she was like a traveling evangelist, and she would travel us around the country. And we were based in Atlanta at the time. And during that time, LaFace Records was the thing. They had like Outkast, and he was in a group called Goody Mob at the time. And me and a friend of mine who's actually here, he's gonna be selling merch and doing stuff with me today. We had a rap group, and we ended up like linking with them, just going to different shows, and then started doing promotions for LaFace. And then we started pushing elbows with those guys, and eventually got invited to the studio and met him there, and got into a little cypher where we were singing and rapping, and he invited us out to the studio he was working in Atlanta, which was out in not Fayetteville. I think it was going towards Kennesaw. And it's a place called Cock Off the Walk, which is a strange name for studio. But yeah, started writing, got my first placement there, and then when he decided to go on tour, he needed backup singers, and I was like, here I am. Can I go?
And he said
like,
yes,
yeah.
just like that.
Yeah.
Well, there must have been something he heard, something he saw in you for him to say that.
I'm very thankful. So the rest is just history.
All right, and then so let's move on to the history. You're making your own history now, moving out into your own thing. How did Soul Power happen?
Soul Power happened just because the goal for that record was for me just to like actually see a piece of vinyl with my face and my name and my songs on it. And I put it out on a California-based indie label called Burger Records here. They're mainly known for like putting out garage bands and punk bands and stuff like that. And people started just gravitating towards the songs and the music, and started getting calls from different labels and different calls from Europe and Anti Records, also based out of LA, which is a subsidiary of Epitaph. I ended up working out a deal with them to put it out overseas, and it just started picking up. So,
Well, there are a lot of cuts on it. What, 12,
yeah, it's 12 cuts.
12 cuts. So it's a lot of music. Are you one of those writers that you write a lot? You probably have, and you have to just like sort through and decide which of my book full of. Yeah.
Right. I try to make it as cohesive as possible, but as different as possible. You know, I'm a fan of like putting an album on and just like letting it play. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make an album that was just like audible from top to bottom without having to skip songs and make them as catchy as possible. So
yeah. Is there a cut or two that you're particularly proud of on this first album? You love them all.
I like them all. They're like, it's like trying to pick a favorite child or something. You know, I love all my kids.
Which artists, if you had to pick some that influenced you? We mentioned that your classic soul kind of sound. Which artists? Pick a few that really influenced you, and you would say maybe influenced this album.
So many, man. You know, when I record, I try not to, tap into those influences. I think it should just kind of just inherently kind of just be there after you listen to it so much, because I'm a fan of like people that they sound like themselves, but it's a lot of guys. Like I like Bo Diddley. Like I said, John Lee Hooker. There's a lot of guys that I like. A lot of ladies too. Goes back to like my mom is like, she's a huge fan of the Clark sisters. So I used to listen to them a lot. But yeah, I mean it's all across the board. That's a very hard question to ask because there's so many influences.
But you understand why people say they mention that there's a classic sound. They'll pick different people.
Yeah. I have to give credit to just like the way the album was recorded and just like where I grew up and who my parents are and just who my relatives are. It's just, it's very organic. It's nothing that was kind of, my intentions was not to make like a retro classic sounding album. It was just to make music that I like, that I want to hear. So
I got to tell you, listening to it, the stories don't match the sound to me sometimes. Let me tell you that, Curtis.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a really great sound, a groove. You can dance, but if you stop and think about the story, some of these stories are sad.
Well, yeah. I mean, but that's pretty much I guess that's another reason why people attribute it to the blues and all that stuff. Black people got 400 years of sadness that we encounter and stuff. So, and America is in the state that we're in right now. I'm not a political guy, but you still write blues songs about stuff and write sad songs about everything. So.
Now I was looking. I mean, you've got one. I think the last one on Soul Power, "Cruel World," and I mean just a couple of them. And that I wondered as I'm listening to them. Do you write about stuff that's happening in your life? I mean, this starts out. It's a heartbreak story.
Yeah, that song in particular is right now probably 13 years old. That was one of the first songs I wrote, actually, and I always wanted to like redo it, and I had the opportunity to put it on Soul Power, so I just made it.
Yeah, I'm gonna just for those that don't know the song. I mean, I pulled a couple of lines from it. Yesterday she left me. She should have kept me.
Oh.
Champagne is my only friend. No matter how much I try, I can't find a solution. Yeah. What do people? I mean, the songs that touch us a lot of times are songs that we can identify with, that we put on when we're going through whatever we're going through. And there are a lot of songs in here, that I could see people saying, you know what, I'm experiencing that. I have experienced that, and I can identify with it. Is that what you're doing when you say you want to be real? Are you coming from a real place? You think people identify with that realness?
Of course. I mean, like for like I said before, for me, music is very personal, and it's I have to like it first, and it's like it's supposed to be healing in some regard. So, um, you know, if people relate to it, then that's even better. And people always draw their own interpretation of music, and that's the beautiful thing about it too. So, I mean, I might write a song or something that might not necessarily be about that, but they'll take it and add it to something that they've experienced, and that's cool. So, you know,
Now, I asked you before we went on if you'd been to Baton Rouge before. This is your first time here,
it's
so
my first
welcome to
time.
the city.
Thank you.
And you planning on catching a couple of the acts here?
Yeah, I'm going to try my best. I haven't had any sleep, so I'm trying to take a nap and then go out. I want to see Buddy Guy, of course. That was one of the reasons why I agreed to do this. I was like, oh, Buddy Guy's playing. I was like, got to be there. So, yeah.
All right. Well, first album, Soul Power. What's ahead for you? I'm sure, certainly you're working on the next.
I'm working on the next one. 15 cuts deep right now, so yeah, hopefully it'll be out fairly soon.
Burger Records?
I'm not sure who's coming out on next, so we'll see.
All right. Well, you know, the last 10 minutes of our time with Curtis, we had a couple of people here. I want to give anyone that's listening an opportunity. Anybody have a question for Curtis? Anybody out there want an opportunity to ask a question? Shy, don't want to, that's okay.
Any of the many people out there.
Any of the many, you know what? It's not the many people, it's the many people here.
Nah, exactly.
So I'll ask the questions that the many people here might want to ask. Yeah, I mean, I'm a mama, and I think about, you know, my baby going off into the world, and you want to see them do good.
Yeah.
And I know that gospel roots thing, and, you know, how's mama? You know,
Mama's doing well. Mama's actually, she's back in Michigan right now. Still doing what she has always done.
Has she supported you?
Not in the beginning, and she probably shouldn't have in the beginning. So just because I was
Were you out there a while? Were you one of those?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You know, some of those songs are about that too, but yeah, she does now. Like, she's my mama, of course.
I know. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah,
exactly. I love that. You ever do any of the old stuff with her?
Oh yeah, I love that stuff. When I was younger, it kind of embarrassed me, but you know, the older you get and when you mature, you start to realize that this is who you are, and this is what makes the music that you do what it is. So yeah, I love gospel. I like old gospel. I'm not a huge fan of contemporary gospel, but yeah, I love that stuff.
So you like soul, rhythm and blues, gospel, country.
Punk.
Did you say country? I know I've heard rock in here.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna get a country song, a blues combined country song.
We'll see. I mean, like, my intentions are never to I never sit down and say I'm gonna write a country song. You know. So I mean.
So what do you sit down and just
whatever comes out.
Yeah.
Comes out. So you know, we'll see. Like now I'll start writing something like, oh, that sounds like a country song, and then kind of teeter towards that vein, but it's never with the intention to make a particular style of music. So,
well, I tell you, it is great to see the next generation coming, because I know a lot of the older folks, when we get a chance to sit down and talk with them, you know, that is what their heart is. Their heart is to see the fire catch on, and because they're only here. We only have them so long. They're our treasures, and I think that's part of why the Bluesfest even came to being. It's wanting to cherish our treasures. And then great to see the next generation step up and take it on beyond there.
Thank you. I want to wish a happy birthday to my daddy. He just turned 86. So
86?
Happy birthday, Bob.
All right.
All right.
Well, I think that will do it. We appreciate your time with us.
Thank you.
Curtis, and then you're going to be on the foundation stage.
Okay, that's the stage.
Oh yeah.
All right.
I was told you drove in all the way from Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
You drove in, so you know I guess they just tell you where to go now. But I know you're going to find where Buddy Guy is.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna find him.
All right.
I'm coming for you, buddy.
All right. Well, that'll wrap it up. Unless we have a last comment from anybody, question? No. That'll wrap it up for our time with Curtis Harding here at the Bluesfest Backstage. I'm Karen Henderson, WRKF.
Bye. Peace.